Hey guys! Tonight we dive into the shadowy corners of history, where the Vatican's grand halls hide stories of popes who weren't exactly the holy figures you'd expect. Imagine yourself wandering through ancient stone corridors at midnight, the air thick with the scent of old incense and forgotten secrets, as whispers of scandal echo off the walls like distant thunder. These weren't saints guiding the faithful, they were flawed men tangled in power, lust, and betrayal. Their legacies more nightmare than divine inspiration. You probably won't survive this without nodding off, given how these tales drag on like a never-ending sermon. But hey, that's the point for bedtime history. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You settle into your cozy spot, eyes growing heavy as the world outside fades away. Picture this, you're not alone in this exploration. A faint, ghostly candle appears before you, its flame flickering softly like it's been waiting centuries to share these tales. It's no ordinary light. It's ethereal, almost alive, with a warm glow that dances as if whispering secrets from the past. You reach out, feeling a gentle warmth on your skin, and it leads you forward through the misty veil of time. This candle, born from the embers of forgotten Vatican scandals, will be your guide tonight, evolving as we go, revealing more of itself with each shadowy figure we uncover. It's quirky, isn't it? Like that one friend who always shows up uninvited but ends up stealing the show. As you follow the candle's glow, you find yourself in the heart of 10th century Rome, where the church wasn't the beacon of purity it aimed to be. The air feels heavy with intrigue, and you can almost hear the distant clink of wine goblets and muffled laughter from hidden chambers. Historians often point to this era as the Saeculum Obscurum, or Dark Age of the Papacy, a mainstream fact that marks a time when noble families treated the papal throne like a family heirloom, passing it around with little regard for spirituality. You trudge along cobblestone paths, the candle bobbing ahead, illuminating faded frescoes that hint at the chaos to come. But let's ease into the first whisper of scandal. You pause at a grand doorway, the candle's flame steadying as if to say, "Buckle up, this one's a doozy." Enter Pope John the Wise, a name that still makes scholars chuckle or cringe. Born Octavianus around 937, he was thrust onto the papal throne at just 18 years old in 955, thanks to his powerful father, Alberic II of Spoleto, who installed him on his deathbed. Imagine that you're barely out of your teens, and suddenly you're the spiritual leader of the Western world. No wonder things went sideways. You watch as the candle casts shadows on scenes of his reign, where the Lateran palace, meant for prayer and piety, turned into something more like a rowdy tavern. John didn't see the papacy as a calling. To him, it was a playground. Chroniclers from the time accused him of turning holy chambers into brothels, welcoming prostitutes, and pawning off sacred relics to fund his wild nights. You can almost smell the stale wine as you envision him toasting to pagan gods during drunken feasts, gambling with bishops instead of leading masses. Historians still argue whether these accounts were exaggerated by his enemies, like the Holy Roman Emperor Otto I, who grew fed up with John's political flip-flopping. Was it all propaganda, or did he invoke demons during rituals? The debate lingers, adding that layer of mystery that makes history feel alive. And, the quirky tidbit here, one fringe story claims John ordained a deacon in a stable, treating the ceremony like a casual barn party. You have to laugh. Imagine the poor horse witnessing that. But his antics weren't just funny. They sparked real chaos. You feel the tension rise as the candle leads you to scenes of betrayal. John secretly negotiated with Otto's enemies, prompting the emperor to march on Rome and convene a synod. Bishops leveled staggering charges: simony, murder, incest. You wince at the thought, the candle's flame dipping low as if saddened by the depravity. Deposed but defiant, John rallied Roman mobs to reclaim power, mutilating foes and executing opponents. His end in 964, fittingly scandalous. Some say a jealous husband struck him down mid-adultery. Others whisper of a stroke during the act. You chuckle softly, talk about going out with a bang, or rather, a thud. But seriously, in a time when the church was supposed to unite people, John's reign divided them, staining the papacy's reputation for generations. As you linger on this, the candle seems to brighten a bit, its wax taking on a faint reddish hue, like it's absorbing the heat of these scandals. It's evolving already, isn't it? Starting as a simple guide, but now carrying the weight of these stories. You wonder what it'll become as we delve deeper. The air grows cooler, the fans hum blending with imagined echoes of ancient chants. Relax. Let your eyelids droop. We're just getting started on this sleepy trail of papal mishaps. But as the candle leads you to the next chamber, you sense a shift, another pope whose story twists even wilder, involving not just sin, but selling the sacred seat itself. You're drifting through the Vatican's shadowy halls, the ghostly candle leading the way, its reddish glow pulsing like it's alive with the scandals it's seen. The air smells of dusty stone and old secrets, and you feel Rome's ancient pulse under your feet. You're still reeling from that first glimpse of papal chaos. But the candle doesn't pause. It floats toward a new chamber, where a teenage pope turned the holy seat into a circus. You're in 955, and the candle's light falls on Pope John the Puisnant, a kid barely 18 crowned as the Western world's spiritual leader. The Vatican feels more like a rowdy tavern than a sacred space, and you're about to find out why. Picture yourself standing in the Lateran Palace, the candle casting flickering shadows on walls draped with faded tapestries. You hear distant laughter, clinking goblets, and maybe a lute played way too late? John the Puisnant, born Octavianus, wasn't chosen for his piety. His dad, Alberic II of Spoleto, a powerful Roman noble, fixed the deal on his deathbed, making his son pope. A mainstream fact is that this era, the 10th century Saeculum Obscurum, saw noble families treat the papacy like a family business. You can almost see Alberic's smug grin, thinking he'd secured his legacy. But what did young John do with this power? You smirk, sensing it's not going to be pretty. The candle's flame dips as you peek into John's world. Chroniclers said he turned the palace into a brothel, inviting all sorts of questionable guests. Sacred relics, meant for worship, were sold off to fund his wild parties. You imagine him toasting to pagan gods, dice rolling across tables with bishops, while the faithful outside prayed for guidance. It's like a frat house took over a cathedral. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some claim John once ordained a deacon in a stable, like he was blessing a barn dance. You chuckle. Imagine the horses looking confused. Historians still argue whether these stories were true or spiced up by his rivals, like Holy Roman Emperor Otto the Fart. Was John a reckless kid or a victim of smear campaigns? You feel the candle's warmth as it hovers over scenes of chaos. John didn't care for spiritual duties. He saw the papacy as a toy. His youth and lack of experience didn't help. But what drove him to such extremes? You wonder if it was the pressure of his father's legacy, the temptation of unchecked power, or just a teenager's rebellion dialed up to 11. Growing up in Rome's cutthroat politics, surrounded by scheming nobles, might have pushed him to indulge every whim. You picture him, barely an adult, drowning in a role too big, with no one to rein him in. But it wasn't just parties. You see the candle flicker as John's political games backfire. He allied with Otto I, then betrayed him by negotiating with Otto's enemies. You can almost hear Otto's boots stomping toward Rome. Furious, in 963, Otto called a synod, and bishops threw accusations at John Simony, murder, even incest. You wince, wondering how much was true. John was deposed, but he didn't go quietly. With Roman mobs at his back, he stormed back, mutilating enemies and executing foes. You laugh softly, talk about a teenager with a grudge. His reign ended in 964, and here's where it gets juicy. Some say a jealous husband caught him with his wife and ended his life. Others whisper a stroke during a scandalous moment. Either way, it's a fitting exit for a pope who lived like a rock star. As you linger, the fan's hum pulls you deeper into this sleepy tale. John's story shows how a kid with too much power can wreck a sacred institution. The church was supposed to be a beacon, but under John, it was a punchline. You wonder how the faithful kept believing after this. The candle's wax now has golden streaks, like it's picking up the glint of John's reckless ambition. It's not just a guide anymore, it's holding on to these stories, growing heavier with each one. You take a slow breath, feeling sleep tug at you. The candle drifts forward, its light falling on a new figure, one who didn't just play with power, but sold it outright. You're gliding through the Vatican's dim corridors, the ghostly candle floating ahead, its flame now streaked with gold, shimmering like it's caught the glint of greed from John the Ftoon's wild days. The air feels cooler, but the scent of old wax lingers, mixing with whispers of Rome's power games. You're leaving behind the teenage pope's chaotic court, but the candle doesn't slow. It's pulling you deeper into the 11th century, where the papacy becomes a prize to be bought and sold. You step into a new chamber, where shadows dance on stone walls, and you meet Pope Benedict IX, a young man who didn't just bend the rules, he broke them in ways that make you shake your head. The candle's glow seems to pulse, as if it's wary of what's coming. It's 1032, and you're standing in Rome's bustling heart, where the Tusculum family runs the show. Benedict IX, born Theophylactus, is barely 20 when his rich relatives shove him onto the papal throne. Picture yourself at a shady auction, where the highest bidder gets a crown, no holy calling required. That's how Benedict got the job. A mainstream fact is that his reign is one of the Church's darkest moments, with chroniclers calling it a disgrace. You can almost hear the Romans muttering, fed up with another noble treating the papacy like a family heirloom. The candle's light flickers on a scene of Vatican parties, more like wild festivals than sacred gatherings. As you follow the candle, you see Benedict in action, and it's not pretty. Stories from the time accuse him of rape, adultery, and even dabbling in black magic. You smirk. Imagine a pope trying to cast spells, like he's auditioning for a wizard role. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some claim he held a wedding for his horse in a chapel, which is so ridiculous you can't help but laugh. Was it true, or just gossip from his haters? Historians still argue whether these tales were exaggerated to smear him or if he was really that wild. You feel the weight of the question, could a kid that young be so corrupt, or was he just a pawn in his family's game? The candle's flame dips as you watch Benedict's reign unravel. The Romans, sick of his antics, rebel and kick him out. You picture yourself dodging the chaos, hearing shouts, and seeing torches in the streets. But Benedict sneaks back, only to leave again, then returns like he's playing a game of musical chairs with the papacy. Then, in 1045, he does something jaw-dropping. He sells the papal throne to his godfather, John Gratian, for a pile of gold. You blink, imagining a for sale sign on St. Peter's Basilica, and chuckle at the absurdity. Gratian becomes Pope Gregory VI, supposedly to restore order, but it only sparks more trouble. You sense the candle's glow dim, like it's embarrassed by the transaction. This sale causes a mess. You see three men, Benedict, Gregory, and a rival, Sylvester III, all claiming to be Pope at once. It's like a bad reality show. With Rome as the stage, Emperor Henry III steps in, calling a council to clean up the chaos. All three are ousted, and Benedict gets excommunicated, not once but multiple times, depending on who's in charge. You laugh softly, talk about getting fired with extra drama. The church's reputation takes a hit, and you wonder how people kept faith when their leader was acting like a shady salesman. The fan's hum soothes you, pulling you deeper into this sleepy tale. Benedict's story shows how the papacy became a toy for Rome's elite families. His youth and the Tusculum clan's grip on power let him treat the Holy Seat like a prize, and selling it was the ultimate betrayal. The candle's wax now glints with more gold, as if it's mirroring Benedict's greed. It's not just a guide anymore. It's soaking up the weight of these scandals, growing heavier with each step. You feel your eyelids droop, the soft hum of the fan blending with the candle's faint crackle. The glow shifts, leading you to a new figure, one whose scandals make Benedict's look tame. You're still wandering the Vatican's shadowy halls, the ghostly candle floating ahead, its golden streaks now bolder, like it's soaking up the glint of ambition from Benedict IX's scandalous reign. The air smells of aged parchment and intrigue, and you can almost hear the distant murmur of Rome's restless crowds. You've just left behind Benedict's wild sale of the papacy, but the candle keeps moving, pulling you into the late 15th century, where a new figure waits one whose name still sparks whispers of power and poison. The candle's flame dances wildly, as if it knows the Borgia family's games are about to unfold. You step into a lavish chamber, where velvet curtains and flickering torches set the stage for Pope Alexander VI, a man who didn't just play with power, he mastered it. It's 1492, and you're in Rome, where the Vatican feels more like a royal court than a holy place. Rodrigo Borgia, now Pope Alexander VI, didn't climb to the top with prayers. He bought the papacy with bribes and backroom deals. A mainstream fact is that his election was one of the most corrupt in history, with gold and promises changing hands like candy at a fair. You picture yourself sneaking through the conclave, hearing coins clink and nobles whisper. The candle's glow lights up scenes of Alexander's reign, where he builds the Borgia dynasty like a king, not a pope. He hands out power to his kids, Cesare, a warrior cardinal, and Lucretia, tangled in rumors of intrigue. As you follow the candle, you see the Vatican buzzing with scandal. Alexander throws lavish parties, and one stands out the banquet of chestnuts. You imagine slipping into this wild event, where dozens of dancers entertain guests, and coins are tossed for, let's say, creative contests. You chuckle, it's like a Vegas show crashed a church service. Chroniclers said Alexander watched from his throne, enjoying the chaos. A quirky tidbit. Some claim he kept a pet panther in the Vatican, prowling like his own ambitions. You laugh, picturing a pope petting a big cat during Mass. But historians still argue whether these stories, especially about Lucretia's darker rumors, were true or just slander from rivals. Was Alexander a master manipulator or a victim of jealous gossip? You feel the candle's warmth as you watch him juggle power and pleasure. He sells cardinal positions to the highest bidder, turning faith into a business. Yet, he's no fool. He strengthens the papal states and commissions art that still stuns today, like Michelangelo's early works. You wonder how he balanced it all, ruling like a prince, scheming like a politician, and still leaving a mark on history. His kids, Cesare and Lucretia, become legends themselves. But you sense Alexander's shadow behind their every move. The candle's flame steadies, as if admiring his cunning. But you know it came at a cost. His end in 1503 is as murky as his life. You see rumors swirl in the candle's light. Some say he was poisoned while plotting to kill a rival. Others claim it was just bad luck. His body, bloated and barely fitting in the coffin, is buried with little fanfare. You smirk talk about a dramatic exit for a dramatic guy. The church's reputation takes another hit, and you can almost hear the faithful sighing, wondering if their leaders will ever clean up their act. The fan's soft hum pulls you deeper into this sleepy tale, your eyelids growing heavy. Alexander's story shows how one man's ambition could twist a sacred role into a dynasty's throne. The candle's wax now shimmers with a faint crimson, like it's picking up the heat of Borgia's schemes. It's not just guiding you anymore, it's a witness to these twisted tales, changing with every step. You breathe slowly, the hum blending with the candle's crackle. The glow shifts, leading you to a darker chapter, where a pope's vengeance takes a truly bizarre turn. You're drifting deeper into the Vatican's shadowy maze, the ghostly candle floating ahead, its crimson-streaked glow pulsing like it's haunted by the Borgia's schemes. The air feels damp, heavy with the musty scent of old stone and forgotten grudges. You've just left Alexander Tsexek's glittering but corrupt court, but the candle doesn't linger. It pulls you back to 897, where Rome's chaos takes a turn for the truly weird. The flame flickers, almost nervously, as you step into a dimly lit basilica, where Pope Stephen VI is about to stage a spectacle so bizarre it feels like a fever dream. You brace yourself, sensing this one's going to be a wild ride. You're in the Lateran Basilica, and the candle's light reveals a chilling scene, a decomposing corpse dressed in papal robes, propped up on a throne. This is Pope Formosus, dead for months, but Stephen VI has dug him up for the infamous Cadaver Synod. A mainstream fact is that this trial, held to condemn Formosus for alleged crimes, is one of the most surreal moments in church history. You can almost smell the decay, mixed with incense, as you watch Stephen shout accusations at the corpse perjury, breaking church laws, stealing the papacy. A deacon, standing beside the body, answers for it, his voice trembling. You chuckle nervously. Talk about a courtroom drama with no happy ending. The candle's flame dips low, casting eerie shadows. Why is Stephen doing this? You see him, backed by the powerful Spoleto family, using this trial to erase Formosus's legacy. Formosus had crowned a rival emperor, angering Stephen's allies. So this is pure vengeance dressed up as justice. You picture yourself in the crowd, wide-eyed, as the corpse sways, its robes slipping. A quirky tidbit: some say the audience threw stones at the body after Stephen declared it guilty, stripping its vestments and cutting off its blessing fingers. You laugh softly, imagine the chaos, like a mob at a bad theater show. Historians still argue whether Stephen was driven by politics or just lost his grip on sanity. Was this a calculated power move or a sign he'd gone off the deep end? You follow the candle as the trial's fallout unfolds. The sentence is brutal. Formosus's body is tossed into the Tiber River, his ordinations voided to weaken his supporters. You feel a chill, wondering how anyone thought this would end well. The Roman people, horrified, don't stay quiet. Riots erupt, and you imagine dodging angry crowds as they storm the streets. Months later, Stephen's enemies imprison him, and he's strangled in his cell. You wince, talk about karma catching up fast. The church tries to bury this episode, literally and figuratively. Formosus's body is fished out, reburied with honor, and future popes ban such trials. But the damage is done. You can hear the faithful whispering, doubting their leaders. The fan's gentle hum soothes you, blending with the candle's faint crackle, pulling you deeper into this sleepy tale. Stephen's story isn't just about a creepy trial. It shows how far vengeance could twist the papacy. The Spoleto family's grip on Rome, much like the Tusculums you saw with Benedict, turned the Holy Seat into a political weapon. You wonder how people kept their faith when popes acted like vengeful warlords. The candle's wax now has a faint gray streak, like it's carrying the gloom of this grim chapter. It's more than a guide now, it's a keeper of these dark tales, growing heavier with each one. You take a slow breath, your eyelids drooping as the hum lulls you. The candle's glow shifts, leading you to a new era, where one pope's anger sparks a crisis that splits the church in two. You're still gliding through the Vatican's dim corridors, the ghostly candle leading the way, its gray-streaked glow flickering like it's haunted by Stephen VI's grim trial. The air feels sharper now, tinged with the scent of old iron and tension, as if Rome itself is holding its breath. You've just left behind the Cadaver Synod's eerie spectacle, but the candle keeps moving, pulling you into 1378, where a new pope's rage sets the church on fire. The flame pulses, almost angry, as you step into a chamber where Pope Urban VI's paranoia casts long shadows. You brace yourself, sensing this story's about to crackle with conflict. You're in Rome, where the city feels like a powder keg. The cardinals, pressured by rowdy Roman crowds, pick Bartolomeo Prignano, an Italian, as Pope Urban VI, hoping to calm things down after years of French popes ruling from Avignon. A mainstream fact is that his election sparked the Western Schism, a nearly 40-year split in the church with rival popes claiming power. You picture yourself dodging shouting mobs outside the Vatican, the candle's light catching glints of steel from guard swords. Urban's not what anyone expected. He's no peacemaker. You see him, red-faced and shouting, berating cardinals for the smallest mistakes. The candle's flame flares as you watch Urban's reign unravel. He's suspicious, convinced everyone's plotting against him. You hear whispers of him beating his staff and screaming at advisors in public. It's like watching a boss lose it at a staff meeting. And you chuckle. Imagine the cardinals rolling their eyes behind his back. A quirky tidbit. Some say Urban once threw a goblet at a bishop during a heated argument, which is so petty you can't help but smirk. Historians still argue whether Urban was mentally unstable or just overwhelmed by the pressure of leading a divided church. Was he a tyrant by nature, or did Rome's chaos push him over the edge? You follow the candle deeper, feeling the tension rise. Urban's paranoia turns deadly when he suspects his cardinals of disloyalty. You see him imprison several, their screams echoing through the Vatican's stone halls. Some are beaten, others are starved, and 5 are executed without trial. You wince, picturing the horror, like a medieval thriller gone wrong. His actions drive a group of cardinals to flee and elect a rival pope, Clement VII, in Avignon. Suddenly, Europe's split kings and cities pick sides, and the church fractures like a broken mirror. You wonder how believers coped with 2 popes, each claiming to be God's voice. The candle's light steadies, casting shadows of Urban's isolation. He surrounds himself with loyal brutes, excommunicating anyone who dares question him. You laugh softly, talk about a one-man show with no applause. His reign destabilizes Rome, alienating allies and fueling chaos. By the time he dies in 1389, alone and bitter, the schism is in full swing, and the church's unity is a distant memory. You feel the weight of his legacy, not in holiness, but in division. The fan's soft hum lulls you, blending with the candle's faint crackle, pulling you deeper into this sleepy tale. Urban's story shows how one man's anger could split an institution meant to unite, like the Spoleto family with Stephen or the Tusculums with Benedict. Power-hungry factions turned the papacy into a battleground. The candle's wax now has a fiery orange streak, as if it's burning with Urban's rage. It's not just guiding you, it's collecting the heat of these scandals, growing fiercer with each step. You breathe slowly, your eyelids heavy as the hum soothes you. The candle's glow shifts, leading you to a new pope whose greed lights a spark that changes the church forever. You're drifting through the Vatican's shadowy halls, the ghostly candle floating ahead, its orange-streaked glow flaring like it's still burning with urban feces' fiery temper. The air smells of polished wood and melted wax, and you feel Rome's pulse quicken as you move into the early 16th century. You've just left the chaos of the Western Schism, but the candle keeps pulling you forward, its flame brightening as if eager to reveal a new scandal. You step into a lavish chamber where gold drips from the ceilings and music hums from grand feasts. This is the world of Pope Leo X, a man whose greed sparks a fire that splits the church in a way even Urban couldn't imagine. You settle in, ready for a tale that's equal parts dazzling and disastrous. It's 1513, and you're in Rome, where the Vatican feels like a Renaissance palace, bursting with art and excess. Giovanni de' Medici, now Pope Leo X, isn't your typical holy man. He's a prince from Florence's richest family, the Medicis. A mainstream fact is that his sale of indulgences, certificates promising less time in purgatory for cash, helped trigger the Protestant Reformation. You picture yourself slipping through a crowded market, hearing priests shout, "Pay now, save your soul later." The candle's light dances on scenes of Leo's lavish life, golden chandeliers, endless banquets, and artists like Raphael painting masterpieces for his court. You smirk. It's like he's hosting a never-ending party. And you're stuck cleaning up. The candle's flame steadies as you watch Leo's reign unfold. He once said, "God gave us the papacy. Let's enjoy it." And boy, did he. His court is a whirlwind of poetry, music, and luxury. But the bills pile up fast. To keep the party going, Leo ramps up indulgence sales, sending priests across Europe with catchy slogans like, "When the coin in the coffer rings, the soul from purgatory springs." You chuckle, sounds like a medieval infomercial. A quirky tidbit. Some say Leo kept a pet elephant named Hano, a gift from Portugal, parading it through Rome like a circus star. You laugh, imagining an elephant stomping past St. Peter's. But historians still argue whether Leo's extravagance was reckless indulgence or a calculated way to fund the church's grandeur. Was he clueless, or just too confident in his power? You follow the candle, feeling the stakes rise. In 1517, a German monk named Martin Luther got fed up. He nails 95 complaints to a church door in Wittenberg, calling out Leo's indulgence racket. You can almost hear the hammer's thud, sparking a movement that spreads like wildfire. Leo laughs it off, calling Luther a drunken German who will sober up. Big mistake. You wince, sensing trouble brewing. Luther's ideas caught on, and soon half of Europe's questioning the church's authority. You wonder how Leo missed the warning signs. Did his love for luxury blind him to the growing anger? The candle's glow flickers as the Reformation explodes. Leo excommunicates Luther, but it's too late. Churches break away, and Western Christianity fractures forever. You laugh softly, talk about underestimating a monk with a hammer. Leo dies in 1521, his treasury empty, unaware of the full blaze he ignited. His legacy isn't just art and parties, it's a church split in two, with millions turning away from Rome. The fan's hum soothes you, blending with the candle's crackle, pulling you deeper into this sleepy tale. Leo's story shows how greed and pride could unravel centuries of tradition. Like Alexander the Sex's schemes or Urban's rage, his actions turned the papacy into a stage for personal glory. The candle's wax now glints with a silver streak, as if reflecting Leo's coins. It's not just a guide, it's carrying the weight of these missteps, growing richer with each tale. You breathe slowly, eyelids drooping as the hum lulls you. The candle's glow shifts, leading you to a darker time, where one family's grip on Rome sinks the papacy to new lows. You're gliding through the Vatican's dim corridors, the ghostly candle drifting ahead, its silver-streaked glow shimmering like the coins of Leo X's indulgence schemes. The air feels thick, heavy with the scent of old wine and whispered plots, as if Rome's scheming nobles are still lurking nearby. You've just left the Reformation's spark behind, but the candle keeps moving, pulling you back to the early 10th century, where the papacy sinks into its darkest days. The flame pulses softly, almost cautiously. As you step into a chamber where power isn't just grabbed, it's seduced. This is the world of Pope Sergius III, and the candle's light reveals a time called the pornocracy, where one family's grip turns the holy seat into a twisted family business. You settle in, ready for a tale that's as murky as it gets. It's 9:04, and you're in Rome, where the city feels like a chessboard for noble families. Sergius III claws his way to the papal throne after a bloody fight, with rivals assassinated to clear his path. A mainstream fact is that his reign marks the start of the pornocracy, a period where the Theophylact family ran Rome like their personal playground. You picture yourself dodging shady figures in dark alleys, the candle's glow catching glints of daggers. Sergius isn't here for spirituality. He's a ruthless player in a brutal game. The candle lights up scenes of his rule, where the Vatican feels more like a noble's mansion than a sacred space. As you follow the candle, you see Sergius's biggest scandal, his affair with Marozia, a teenage noblewoman from the Theophylact clan. Their relationship isn't just gossip. It produces a son who later becomes Pope John XV. You blink, chuckling at the idea of a pope fathering another pope. It's like a soap opera plot gone wild, a quirky tidbit. Some say Marozia threw lavish parties where she handed out church titles like party favors. You laugh, imagining her tossing bishop hats to her buddies. Historians still argue whether Sergius was a puppet of the Theophylacts or a schemer in his own right. Was he just Marozia's pawn, or did he use her to cement his power? You feel the candle's warmth as you watch Sergius tighten his grip. He sells church offices, fills the Vatican with loyalists, and even digs into old grudges, condemning the corpse of Pope Formosus again. You remember Stephen VI's creepy cadaver synod, and now Sergius is piling on, making sure Formosus's legacy stays buried. You wince, picturing him smirking as he trashes a dead pope's name. It's all politics, not piety. And you can almost hear the faithful outside grumbling about their so-called leader. The Theophylact's control means Rome's elite treat the papacy like a family heirloom, passed around with no regard for faith. The candle's flame steadies, casting shadows of Sergius's iron rule. He dies in 911 still in power, feared but not loved. You laugh softly, talk about a guy who knew how to play dirty and win. His reign sets the stage for decades of Theophylact dominance, with Marozia and her kin pulling strings. You wonder how people kept their faith when the church was run like a shady business. The pornocracy isn't just a scandal, it's a low point that makes even John XI's antics seem tame. The fan's gentle hum pulls you deeper into this sleepy tale, your eyelids growing heavy. Sergius's story shows how one family's greed could twist the papacy into something unrecognizable, like Benedict's sale or Alexander's schemes. It's about power over principle. The candle's wax now has a dark purple streak, as if stained by this era's corruption. It's not just guiding you, it's soaking up the darkness of these tales, growing heavier with each step. You breathe slowly, the hum blending with the candle's faint crackle. The glow shifts, leading you to a pope who didn't just want power, he claimed to be above kings. You're still wandering the Vatican's shadowy halls, the ghostly candle floating ahead, its purple-streaked glow pulsing like it's stained by Sergius III's dark deeds. The air feels heavier, thick with the scent of old ink and ambition, as if Rome's power struggles are seeping through the walls. You've just left the murky pornocracy behind, but the candle keeps pulling you forward into 1294, where a new pope's ego burns brighter than the sun. The flame flares, almost defiant, as you step into a grand chamber where Pope Boniface VIII declares himself above all rulers. You settle in, ready for a tale of arrogance that shakes the church to its core. It's 1294, and you're in Rome, where the Vatican feels like a fortress of pride. Boniface VIII, born Benedetto Caetani, takes the papal throne after his predecessor quits, a rare move that leaves everyone stunned. You picture yourself slipping through a crowded conclave, hearing whispers of Boniface's big plans. A mainstream fact is that his decree, Unum Sanctam, boldly claims that submission to the Pope is necessary for salvation, putting him above kings and emperors. The candle's light dances on scenes of Boniface's reign, where he acts more like a ruler than a spiritual guide, his robes flowing like a king's cape. As you follow the candle, you see Boniface's ambition in action. He declares, "I am Caesar, I am emperor," and you can't help but chuckle talk about a guy with a big head. He's not subtle, demanding that Europe's monarchs bow to his authority. A quirky tidbit. Some say Boniface wore a crown so heavy it gave him headaches, which is funny until you realize he meant it literally and figuratively. You laugh, picturing him wincing under the weight of his ego. Historians still argue whether Boniface truly believed he was untouchable or if he was just flexing to keep the church's power intact. Was he a visionary or a megalomaniac? You feel the candle's warmth as you watch his biggest clash unfold. King Philip IV of France, a shrewd and stubborn ruler, isn't impressed. When Boniface tries to control French taxes on clergy, Philip fights back, accusing him of heresy and immorality. You see the tension rise, like a storm brewing. In 1303, Philip's allies stormed Boniface's residence in Anagni, slapping him across the face, a literal smackdown of papal pride. You wince, imagining the shock, like a bully getting punched back. Boniface is freed, but the humiliation lingers. He dies soon after, some say from rage, others from illness. You smirk either way. It's a rough exit for a guy who thought he was unstoppable. The candle's flame steadies, casting shadows of Boniface's downfall. His enemies don't stop there years later. They dig up his body, claiming it smells of sulfur, a sign of damnation. You laugh softly, talk about holding a grudge. Even Dante, the poet, sticks Boniface in hell's eighth circle in his Divine Comedy, a jab that stings centuries later. The church's authority takes a hit, and you wonder how the faithful felt. Seeing their pope humbled by a king, Boniface's claim to supreme power backfired, showing that even a pope can't outshine a determined monarch. The fan's soft hum lulls you, blending with the candle's faint crackle, pulling you deeper into this sleepy tale. Boniface's story isn't just about one man's ego, it's about the church overreaching and paying the price. Like Leo X's greed or Sergius's schemes. It's another case of the papacy chasing power over faith. The candle's wax now glints with a sharp blue streak, as if reflecting Boniface's bold claims. It's not just a guide, it's carrying the weight of these prideful tales, growing fiercer with each step. You breathe slowly, your eyelids heavy as the hum soothes you. The candle's glow shifts, leading you to a pope whose holy wars leave a bloody mark on history. You're gliding through the Vatican's dim corridors, the ghostly candle floating ahead, its blue-streaked glow shimmering like it's absorbed Boniface VIII's bold arrogance. The air feels heavy with the scent of old blood and smoke, as if the echoes of war cling to the walls. You've just left behind Boniface's shattered pride, but the candle keeps moving, pulling you into 1198, where a new pope's ambition turns the church into a battlefield. The flame burns steadily, almost fiercely, as you step into a chamber where Pope Innocent III wields power like a sword. You settle in, ready for a tale of crusades that stained the church with blood. It's 1198, and you're in Rome, where the Vatican pulses with energy, like a war camp dressed in holy robes. Innocent III, young and sharp, isn't here for quiet prayers, he's building an empire. A mainstream fact is that he launched the Fourth Crusade and the Albigensian Crusade, campaigns that turned Christian against Christian in shocking ways. You picture yourself slipping through a crowded hall, hearing knights' armor clanking and scribes scribbling orders. The candles light dances on scenes of Innocent's reign, where he dreams of a church ruling the world, his decrees sharper than any blade. As you follow the candle, you see the Fourth Crusade unfold. It's meant to retake Jerusalem, but it goes wildly off track. You watch in disbelief as Crusaders sack Constantinople, a Christian city, in 1204. Churches are looted, relics stolen, and you can almost hear the screams echoing across the sea. You chuckle nervously. Talk about a holy mission gone rogue. A quirky tidbit. Some say Crusaders sent Innocent a share of the spoils, like a kid showing off a bad report card. Historians still argue whether Innocent secretly approved the attack or was genuinely horrified. Did he lose control, or was this chaos part of his plan? You feel the candle's warmth as you move to the Albigensian Crusade, closer to home in southern France. The Cathars, a Christian sect with different beliefs, are labeled heretics. Instead of debate, Innocent sends knights. You see the city of Béziers burn in 1209 with thousands slaughtered men, women, kids. A chilling order floats through the air. Kill them all, God will sort them out. You wince, picturing the horror, like a medieval blockbuster with no heroes. Innocent's crusades aren't just wars, they're a power grab, planting seeds for the Inquisition. You wonder how the faithful felt, seeing their church wield swords instead of crosses. The candle's flame steadies, casting shadows of Innocent's legacy. He strengthens the church's laws and centralizes power, but the blood on his hands overshadows it all. You laugh softly ironic that a guy named Innocent left such a brutal mark. He dies in 1216, satisfied with his campaigns. But you sense the church's wounds lingering. His crusades divided Christians, not united them. And you can almost hear Europe's faithful questioning their trust in Rome. The fan's gentle hum pulls you deeper into this sleepy tale, your eyelids growing heavy. Innocent's story shows how a pope's quest for control could turn faith into violence, like Boniface's ego or Leo's greed. It's another case of the papacy straying from its mission. The candle's wax now has a deep red streak, as if stained by the blood of these wars. It's not just a guide, it's carrying the weight of these dark deeds, growing heavier with each step. You breathe slowly, the hum blending with the candle's faint crackle. The glow shifts, leading you to a moment where the candle itself reveals its secret, tying these popes together. You're still drifting through the Vatican's shadowy halls, the ghostly candle floating ahead, its red-streaked glow pulsing like it's heavy with Innocent III's bloody crusades. The air feels cool, tinged with the scent of old candles and fading hope, as if Rome's sacred walls are weary from centuries of scandal. You've just left behind the horror of holy wars, but the candle slows now, its flame flickering softly, almost thoughtful. You're stepping into a new space, not tied to one pope, but to the thread that binds them all, corruption's toll on the church. The candle seems ready to reveal its secret, as if it's been more than a guide all along. You settle in, ready to uncover what ties these tales together and what finally sparks change. You're standing in a quiet chamber, the candle's light casting a warm glow on ancient tapestries showing the popes you've met, John Thorun's wild parties, Benedict's sold throne, Alexander's scheming, Stephen's creepy trial, Urban's rage, Leo's greed, Sergius's dark deals, Boniface's pride, Innocent's wars. You feel the weight of their choices, like stones piling up on the church's foundation. A mainstream fact is that these scandals spread across centuries, fueled calls for reform, leading to movements like the Gregorian Reforms and the Counter-Reformation. You picture yourself flipping through dusty records, seeing how each pope's misstep chipped away at trust. The candle's flame steadies, and you notice it's not just a light, it's a creation of the Church's own making, born from the wax of every broken vow and spilled secret. You chuckle, kind of poetic, that a candle meant to symbolize faith carries the stains of these popes' failures. Its streaks of red, gold, purple, blue, and more tell the story of greed, vengeance, and pride. A quirky tidbit, some say medieval monks made candles from beeswax blessed by saints, hoping to ward off evil. Ironic, given the evil within these walls. You laugh, imagining a monk blessing wax while popes schemed nearby. Historians still argue whether these corrupt popes were exceptions or symptoms of a broken system. Were they just bad apples? Or was the Church's structure rotting? You follow the candle as it hovers over moments of change. After Sergius's pornocracy, the Gregorian reforms in the 11th century tried to clean up, banning simony and tightening rules. You see monks and bishops pushing back against noble families like the Theophylacts, trying to wrest the papacy from their grip. After Leo's indulgence disaster, the Council of Trent in the 16th century cracked down, reforming church practices to win back trust. You can almost hear the debates, heated but hopeful, as the faithful demand better. The candle's light shows glimpses of good popes, like Gregory Thurnsch, who fed the poor, or Innocent Oenpints, who lived simply, proving the papacy could shine again. You feel the candle's warmth, softer now, as if it's relieved to show reform's light. These scandals didn't just break the church, they forced it to rebuild. You wonder how people held on to faith through centuries of betrayal, from John Thorun's brothel to Innocent's crusades. The candle's glow seems to whisper that the church survived because of those who fought for change, not the popes who chased power. You smile faintly, kind of like fixing a leaky roof after a storm. It's messy, but it holds. The fan's gentle hum lulls you, blending with the candle's faint crackle, pulling you deeper into this sleepy tale. The candle's story ties these popes together, showing how their failures sparked a push for a better church. Its wax, heavy with streaks of every scandal, is now a symbol of resilience, not just ruin. It's guided you through darkness, but it's also a reminder that light can follow chaos. You breathe slowly, your eyelids heavy as the hum soothes you. The candle's glow softens, leading you to one final reflection on what these stories mean for power and faith. You're drifting through the Vatican's quiet halls one last time, the ghostly candle floating ahead, its wax a swirling mix of red, gold, purple, blue, and silver streaks. Heavy with the scandals it's carried from John the Fathom's wild nights to Innocent III's bloody crusades. The air feels soft now, like a whisper of old prayers, with the faint scent of melted wax and hope. You've uncovered the church's darkest moments, tied together by the candle's evolving glow. But now it slows, its flame dimming gently, as if ready to rest. You're standing in a serene chamber, no longer filled with chaos, but with reflections on what these tales mean. The candle invites you to pause, to think about power, faith, and the lessons left behind. You settle in, eyelids heavy, ready to let this final story lull you to sleep. You look around, the candle's soft light casting a warm glow on faded murals of the popes you've met. There's John Thorun partying like a teenager. Benedict IX, selling the papacy, Alexander VI, scheming with his Borgia clan, Stephen VI, shouting at a corpse, Urban VI, splitting the church with his rage, Leo X, sparking a reformation with his greed, Sergius III, starting the pornocracy, Boniface VIII, humbled by a king, Innocent III, waging holy wars. Each one twisted the papacy into something it wasn't meant to be: a throne, a business, a weapon. A mainstream fact is that these scandals, spread across centuries, forced the church to face its flaws, leading to reforms that reshaped Christianity. You picture yourself sitting in a quiet library, flipping through history's pages, seeing how these failures pushed the faithful to demand better. The candle's flame flickers, now a gentle spark, as if it's tired but wise. You realize it's more than a guide, it's a symbol of the church itself, burning through darkness, stained by mistakes but still glowing. A quirky tidbit: some medieval candles were made to burn for days, used in vigils to pray for lost souls, fitting for popes who lost their way. You smile, imagining a monk lighting one for Boniface or Sergius. Historians still argue whether the church's resilience came from its divine mission or the sheer stubbornness of its followers. Did faith survive because of God's will, or because people refused to let it die? You feel the candle's warmth, softer now as you reflect on power's cost. These popes chased control over Rome, Europe, even salvation, but it slipped through their fingers. John's parties, Alexander's plots, Innocent's crusades, they left scars, but the church endured because others rebuilt it. You see glimpses of reform monks demanding purity after Sergius, councils tightening rules after Leo. You wonder what it takes to keep faith when leaders fail. Is it hope, stubbornness, or just a need to believe in something bigger? You chuckle softly. Maybe it's like sticking with a favorite team through a losing streak. The fan's gentle hum blends with the candle's faint crackle, pulling you deeper into this sleepy tale. These stories aren't just about bad popes, they're about human flaws, ambition, and the fight to fix what's broken. The candle, now barely flickering, seems ready to fade. Its wax a tapestry of every scandal it's shown you. It's guided you through the Vatican's shadows. But it's also shown you light proof that even the worst moments can lead to change. You let your breath slow. The fans hum, wrapping you in a soft cocoon. The candle's glow dims further, its streaks blending into a gentle, silvery light, like moonlight on a calm night. You're no longer in the Vatican's halls, you're floating in a quiet space where history's chaos feels distant, like a dream fading at dawn. These popes, with their schemes and sins, remind you that power can twist even the holiest roles, but the church's survival shows something stronger: people's will to rebuild. Can you recall which pope sold his throne, or who tried a corpse? Let those names, Benedict, Stephen, drift away like smoke. The candle's flame is a tiny spark now, whispering that mistakes don't have to last forever. Picture it winking out, leaving you in soft darkness, the hum lulling you deeper. You're safe, cozy, ready to slip into sleep, carrying only the glow of lessons learned. Sweet dreams.